Hi guys, time for short response number 2. This week's short response is going to be over perception and reality. We perceive the world through our 5 senses. That is the way that we experience the world. Of these, the most dominant one is going to be the sense of sight. That's the one that we use the most. That's the way we interpret our surroundings the most. That tends to be the one that creates the most of our reality. So what we see creates our reality. What's so crazy about this is it doesn't just have to be things that we see, that we have the power to convince ourselves that something is real or something is happening in the absence of any actual truth. We can see this down here. This is from an article on perception, and it says, we have the ability to see with the mind's eye, to have a perceptual experience in the absence of visual input. So to still perceive something is happening, but in the complete absence of any real, tangible thing, that we can basically create a fantasy that our brain will believe. This is what Berlin is doing all throughout our story, with his tale about going after Cecchiato and his escape. As we know, Berlin's fantasy is this Paris adventure. It is Cecchiato on the road to Paris. While Berlin is telling this story, we always have to remember it's always a fantasy, right? If we want to think about it like a lie, it's just a big lie. And with most lies that you tell that go on too long, they get convoluted and tangled up. And eventually you find you've lied yourself into a corner. And you don't know how you got there, but you need some way to get out because you've ended up giving too much information or saying something that you now need to take back. This happens to Berlin as he is telling us this story. When this happens, when Berlin is influencing the reality, when he's creating the story or changing the story, Tim O'Brien gives us little clues. He mentions the way Paul sees things. We have here from page 74 this quote where it says, Berlin's eyes ached, and this is right before they create the hole in the middle of the road, and they all drop down into the underground lair of Lee Van Hock. Now, the reason Berlin does this is because the lieutenant has just told him that Sarkin has to go. And he's telling this story, and he introduced a girl, and then he has a lieutenant, and he's still in the army, and so now clearly the story, he can't have the girl, because he's in the army, they're going after Cecchiato, so he needs a way to keep Sarkin, he needs a way to keep her in the story, because this is his fantasy, he doesn't want to get rid of her, and so he changes the way he perceives reality, he adds a lie to the story, and Tim O'Brien gives us a clue to this by making a reference to the way that Paul's eyes hurt or the way that he sees things. He does this throughout the novel. Your guys' task on the short response is to find cases of this, cases where we can see Berlin influencing reality by references to his sight, to vision, to things of that nature. That is what we are going to look for this time around. If I could draw it, oh, there we go. So that is your topic this time around. Paul Berlin influencing reality by changing his perceptions. Mr. Miller out.